All right, and welcome to this special episode of Real Estate Fight Club. This series is called What Would You Do?, where we talk about ethics and professional standards committee cases, violations, updates, all things ethics. And here with me today, here with me today is Rachael Real of Rachael Real Real Estate in Chicago. Hey, Rachael.
Morning, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a good Monday so far.
Yeah, that's good. What do you got for us?
So today we're going to talk about Article 1 as it relates to the change of the Code of Ethics that was put into place in January of 2020.
Okay.
And it kind of centers around when you have, especially in multiple offers, you've got multiple offers. Your seller obviously only takes one. So then you have, maybe 2, maybe 8, maybe 36 other ones that they didn't accept.
Right.
So what is your obligation as a listing agent to the buyer's agent / buyers with regard to presenting that offer and providing written confirmation that you've done that?
Oh,
Bless you.
I didn't know that you had to provide written confirmation that you've done it.
Yes.
Okay.
So this was a change to the Code of Ethics, and it's just a couple of words.
Okay.
But it's a change to the Code of Ethics that was made in January of 2020.
Like a year ago.
Right, just over a year ago. So there are a lot of people still that don't even realize that was added to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the key word is being written confirmation.
Okay.
So as a listing agent, you've got a bunch of different offers. If I'm a buyer's agent and I ask you, well, was my offer presented? Up until this change, you could just say, yes, it was presented, or no, it wasn't. My seller didn't want to see it, whatever that is.
Okay.
But you could also be blowing smoke. So we don't know if you're being honest
or if
you're not.
Agents never lie.
They don't.
Ever.
No
agent ever.
So we had to make a change to the Code of Ethics to ensure that they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they are going to lie, that they're now required to put it in writing.
Okay.
So the Code of Ethics, Article 1, essentially says you must be honest. You must represent your client, but you must be honest doing it. So when representing a buyer, seller, landlord, tenant, or other client as an agent, realtors pledge themselves to protect and promote the interests of their client. This obligation to the client is primary, but it does not relieve realtors of their obligation to treat all parties honestly. When serving a buyer, seller, landlord, tenant, or other party in a non-agency capacity, realtors remain obligated to treat all parties honestly.
Can we back up and define honesty first? Because I feel like honesty can be like you're flat out, lying can be like you're flat out not telling the truth, right?
Right.
But I think a caveat that a lot of people miss is not omission of something, even though you're not flat out lying, to me is still lying.
It depends on what that is. So,
right.
I mean, give me an example of what you would classify as falling under that category.
I don't know, because I'm thinking every example, I'm thinking it would need to be disclosed in the disclosures, right?
Right. And I think kind of that's where more of that kind of comes up is when you look at the disclosure at face value, do you have a problem with your shower? No, right. I don't have a problem with my shower, but if I don't caulk it on a regular basis, I could have a leak. Well, does that mean you have a defect, or does that mean that it's obvious that ongoing maintenance is going to be required? Because if you don't caulk a shower, of course, it's common sense as it's going to go into the basement or the floor below.
Yeah, so but let's say it's a drain, okay? Because let's say it's like a drain on the outside, and you have or gutters. You have to clean them. I would say if they have to be cleaned or free of debris more often than commonly.
Right. Yes, I know where you're going. So if you say yes, on any house, cleaning the gutters is going to be something that you're going to need to do on a regular basis. Right. However, if your house is susceptible to bigger problems if you don't clean those, there's some houses you can walk into the front door and you see the gutters and they got trees 5 inches growing into them.
Right.
And the basement's bone dry.
Right.
On the flip side, I could have 3 leaves in my gutter and I've got a flooded basement.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that that's a disclosure issue or something you have to address necessarily, but as a good, nice person, do I want to say to the next person buying my house, there's no defect, there's no disclosure issue here. Just a heads up.
Yeah.
You got to stay on top of the gutters here, because if you don't, you're more susceptible to problems than maybe the next guy or the next 10 guys.
Right.
Okay. Common courtesy, I would say, would be more of that category.
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's a different podcast.
That's
All
that's
right.
also gone. So,
So
hey.
let's, yeah, common sense isn't common and common. Okay. So let's go back
Right.
to the issue at hand. So we have multiple offer situation. The seller accepts an offer. That's obviously that contract's buttoned up. Maybe they have a backup offer, whatever, all that's buttoned up. So what do you do with the rest? Now, the new code says that it has to be written verification that it's not accepted.
Right. So standard of practice 1-7 breaks it down a little further and says when acting as listing brokers, realtors shall continue to submit to the seller/landlord all offers and counteroffers until closing or an execution of a lease unless the seller or landlord has waived this obligation in writing. That we know. Even
Okay.
if we're a week before closing, if you get an offer, you're still obligated to present that to the seller. Now, of
Mhm.
course, the seller's probably going to say thanks, but no thanks, I'm going to close in a week. However, this is what the
Or
new
unless
part of the
it's
code
like
is.
over asking and they're like, well, how do I get out of the other one? My God.
You're not getting out of a contract over asking if it comes down to only money. But even then, you've got to be within that beginning part of the contract here.
Right.
So in Illinois, our contract states that you've got 5 business days for that attorney review period where an attorney can cancel a contract for any reason.
Okay.
But it does state it can be for anything other than the amount of money.
Okay.
Because otherwise you'd have people selling their houses and they get a higher offer, they cancel that one, then they're just going to get another one. And they could
Right.
continually cancel on people for no good reason other than the fact that they want more money.
Right.
So that's the only elimination from that
Okay.
contingency in that contract.
Okay.
So the additional part that was added to the code, it says upon written request of a cooperating broker who submits an offer to the listing broker, the listing broker shall provide, as soon as practical, a written affirmation to the cooperating broker stating that the offer has been submitted to the seller/landlord, or a written notification that the seller or landlord has waived the obligation to have the offer presented. So,
Okay.
in any other, before this was part of the code, you'd get a bunch of offers. Yes, I presented all the offers. My client chose to accept number 1. If offer number 5, who didn't get it, says, hey, can you please send me written confirmation? You are obligated as soon as practical to reply to that agent and say in writing, whether it's a text message, an email, a
Mhm.
letter, whatever you want it to be, but a text message is sufficient because they then have proof that you've
Right.
received it and you're now confirming that it's been presented, the seller's declining it.
Right.
What can't happen, and I don't know if your contracts have the same thing, our contracts are 13 pages long.
Jesus.
On the bottom, I know, right? But it does include all of the riders and all of the optional stuff. So we really only use about 8 pages of it. The rest of
Okay.
it's wasted trees. But on the bottom of page 13, there's a box at the bottom that says the offer was presented to the seller at this date and time. The seller has opted to decline the offer at this date and time, then they initial it. Not everyone uses that, and you're
Right.
not required to use it.
Okay.
So there's agents that look at this and go, well, it says you need a written request. I'm giving you a written request that the sellers decline the offer. I want page 13. This does not mean, this new addition to the code does not mean that the listing agent is obligated to require the seller to sign that and send it back to you. You can't force a seller to sign anything.
Right.
So if you've got 37 offers, are you really going to prepare 37
No.
page 13s and have them sign off on all of them? No.
No.
More than likely not. No. Best practices, that's another story.
Yeah.
However, this just means that you're not required to send them that last page that says it was declined. You're
Okay.
only required to give them written confirmation that it was presented and that the seller is choosing to decline it, or show them something from the seller that says seller as of this date does not want to see any more offers.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick break. Talk about our partners real quick, and then we'll talk about those best practices of what you can do. Sound good?
Perfect.
Great.
Sounds good.
So there's 2 partners I want to tell you about today. One is Ghost Poster, which a lot of you know that you should be putting stuff out on social media, but you get flustered about what you should put up. So Monica started a company called Ghost Poster, and every day she sends an email to you, and all you have to do is copy and paste. It's super simple. Go to mycoachmonica.com, enter in Fight Club, and get a discount on that. And then the second one is my coach, Coach John Kitchens. He is offering a free business 30-minute business assessment of your business to help you figure out what are your blinders, what's stopping you from getting your goals, and helping you figure out a way so that you can get your goals. So go to callcoachkitchens.com, enter in Fight Club so you can get that assessment for free. All right, Monica, Jesus, Rachel.
I answer to whatever.
Okay, so let's talk about best practices. I was thinking, like, in reality, a best practice, especially if you like live in a super litigious state or your seller seems super litigious, I think getting that back page signed where it says like not accepted makes
Right.
sense.
I mean, we've all been through, I mean, if you've been in this business long enough too, if you have an offer maybe coming in from an agent who, is a little bit more, I don't want to say strict in their standards, but it might require,
They're a little bit more Karen.
Maybe, right. Maybe you've got a Karen. So maybe in that case, it's just better to get even just that one initialed and send it back so that you can say, yes, there is no question. The seller, it was presented, the seller declined. Here's the page 13 that shows that.
We're done.
So,
yeah.
Right.
But I think in reality, like you said, if you've got a bunch of offers, it's like.
Right. I mean, I had a buyer that was part of a 37 house offer, earlier in the spring this year. Am I really going to expect the listing agent to go get 36 signatures? Probably not. I mean, that would just be nuts. On the other, so that this is kind of what takes the place of that. Can you at least send me something in writing that says, hey, I've presented the offer, the seller's declined it, or that says the seller doesn't want to see any more offers. They're 3 weeks in, they just have asked me not to see anymore. They don't care.
That's it. It's pretty easy.
This stuff comes up when you've got market conditions that favor a seller.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier this year, almost everywhere across the country, we saw a crazy spike in tons of buyer interest, not enough inventory. Therefore, you've got tons of houses that are going under contract in 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 days, whatever it is. And you've got a lot of buyers who are unhappy.
Right.
So just because the buyer's unhappy does not mean they've got recourse to go after the agent for something.
I mean,
they're going to be angry, but this is also the season for ethics complaints too, because now we're usually a couple months behind. Mm-hmm. I've got ethics hearings lined up for the next 2 months.
Jeez.
And there's a lot of them.
So there's also some good cases.
Right, we might. Let's hope so. But you've got, if you've got an agent that's angry that says, hey, my buyer didn't get it, you didn't sign on page 13 to send it back to me. Well, they're not required to.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. They're not required to do that because they can't force the seller.
Right.
So this kind of closes the gap between that. Now, if you say, hey, can you send me proof that the offer was submitted? This is why I always follow up with phone conversations with a text or an email per our conversation.
Right.
Here's the information so that I can go back and track things that way.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of times where those have come in real handy in situations where we're trying to backtrack stuff. But yeah, a quick text message that just says, yeah, it's been presented, or no, it hasn't, and here's why, is all you need to do to fulfill your ethics violation or your ethics, requirement.
Don't violate ethics.
Don't violate it. So best practices, if you've got 2 or 3, why not have the seller, they're going to sign off on a contract, put the extra 2 or 3 pages in there.
Because it's a pain in the ass, Rachel. Here's what I do.
It's a couple extra steps.
I know, just email or text the agent and be like, they're accepting another offer. We'll let you know if something falls through. Absolutely. That's it. Right. I don't know.
Right. I would say I can count on, I would say it's about 50-50 in instances where I've used the seller declines, paragraph at the end of the page 13, and I haven't. So it's a toss up,
Yeah,
it just
I've only
depends
used it a few times too. If an agent pushes back, be like, you know what, this is why they didn't take your offer. No, I'm just kidding.
Because you're being a Karen and
you're a pain in the ass.
They don't want to deal with it. But again, if somebody asks me for that, I'll say, hey, you know what, I'll call the seller. I have no problem calling the seller and saying, hey, would you mind? They're asking, for written confirmation that you received their offer and that you're declining it. There is a spot for that. Would you mind throwing some initials in there?
Yeah.
99% of the time, the sellers are fine with that.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
If you ask them to sign 37 of them, it might be a different story. But the intent for that was just to be, if you're going to lie, we're going to ask you to put it in writing.
Agreed. That makes sense.
That way, when these people find each other at a Christmas party, next year, and they talk about it, because we've had cases where that's happened.
Right.
So-and-so met the other so-and-so at a Christmas party, and now they're angry because this didn't happen.
Right. No, that's true. All right, Rachel. Well, if people want to get a hold of you or they have a referral for you in Chicago, what is the best way?
Best way to reach me is by cell phone, text or call 630-542-8688.
Lovely. Well, have a good
Yes.
rest of the day.
You too. Thanks, ma'am.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.